friends. Today I'd like to share with you my new story that I wrote in Russian and in English. In Russian it is called Прощальный, поцелуй, с прошлым, and in English Your parting kiss with the past. How often we would like to change our present and of course our future. We say tomorrow, in a week, next month, next Monday. We make ourselves a lot of promises, but the days pass and nothing changes. What does it mean? Are we weak, or might be we're just not ready for this decisive step? And actually it's our life, and if we don't do something, it means that something still burns us. Okay, my story began with the quote of Bernard Meltzer. It says, "Happiness is like a kiss. You must share it to enjoy it." Very interesting. Okay, let's begin. Once in a while, everybody experiences the feeling when he wants something to change in his life. When the state of things, as it is, doesn't appear sufficient and enthusiastic anymore. However, there is usually a gap. It can be narrow or broad, separating you from that desirable white page. In the dreams, you're already there, thinking and imagining how wonderful your new life would be, among new people in a new town or country, with a new activity you passionately exercises from then on, in the dreams. Yet you open your eyes and notice nothing has altered since yesterday, and despite all your desired promises to yourself to part ways with the past lifestyle, having become poisoning for you, you find yourself still at the same point in that mouse trap, where the cheese has already grown moldy and became harder as a stone. Nevertheless, you are still inside. Why am I here? Why don't I go out? The cheese is not more attractive, but somehow I'm still attached to it. The questions like these are not rare for every person who has achieved a certain level of internal maturity. It is often the case we start to blame ourselves that we're not the owners and masters of our lives, as many clever books tune us to be. We realize the necessity of change, the idea of the stagnation in life, which cannot last forever and needs action on it. But so far, we're not in the state to make this decisive, all-changing step into the new and the unknown. You may hear from the people here and there, "Oh, together is no way, but when apart it's off the wall too." Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But seldom we make promises to enter new relations and to leave the exploded ones tomorrow or in a week. To quit the job that brings us no further fulfillment and is more associated with frustrations than with growth and prosperity. To stop smoking or eating junk food every day, but days passed, turning into weeks, with weeks converting to years, and we see that the things we dreamed so much to alter have become a fixture in our life. But this status quo doesn't really mean you agree to bear that burden on your shoulders further and further. Not at all. You just don't sense enough energy and power to turn that page of your life. Perhaps not everything has outlived its usefulness. Perhaps you have some ties which are still bounding you. Perhaps there are some issues first needed to be fixed. A lot of factors can be in place. Thus, there is no use to accuse yourself or another person of being passive and dull. The quiet trigger will definitely appear on the stage, but all in good time, and for big deeds we need enough free space to facilitate the match of all circumstances, involved in the process of change, assuring a proper and solid development in the long-term run. If you don't do something now, it means that there are certain reasons for such a behavior. Let the things take their course and even enjoy these last moments as a parting kiss with your past, which is in fact of essential importance to who you are now. After the 2-day wedding of our family friends Konstantin and Marina in a remote town of Sverdlovsk Oblast in August 2013, that had turned to be a mental and physical shock for me, and in the course of which I, for the first time, had clearly seen the aggressive and hostile nature of my ex-spouse Ivan, I tried to give him a second chance, as I promised. However, if a man once had applied physical violence towards his beloved woman, he would would hardly cease then, since the internal aggression remains alive deep inside him, despite all the promises and assurances. And our case was not an exception. The first month after that brutal incident passed calmly and with care about me. However, while my bruises and scratches got less visible, Ivan's attitude was transforming in tune with my convalescence. And very soon he behaved as usual, as he got used to, and sulkily noticed that I still was remembering the pitiful past events. However, how could it be otherwise? It is in general abnormal when a person lays his hands on the other, and when it is your husband who you have been trusting and loving, the situation becomes even more complicated. Anyway, I didn't make any sharp decisions at that difficult time for me, in particular from the psychological perspective, since the physical or external ones usually cure much faster than those which belong to our heart and soul, which are internal. I only observed the development of the situation, our relations, Ivan's attitude to me and mine towards him. Already in 3-4 months I clearly understood that the splashes of violence at me would continue, the lack of respect and the touch of jealousy that Ivan felt to me would remain in place. The disputes and the difference in our personal level would get even bigger. Simply put, already 2 years and a half before our official divorce, I knew it would happen. But at that time, I wasn't ready for strong changes in my life. In a year, I got a new job with many interesting functions and dreams, and demanding almost all my attention and time to it. I didn't feel strong enough to break up with my family life. I was highly attached to our own apartment, which we had bought and arranged heartily and comfortably after our taste. There were a lot of other factors in place, which were still of importance for me and weighed down the scale in favor of my mutual love with Ivan. And at the same time, I realized plainly, one day I would wake up and say to myself and the world around, "Thanks a lot. Now I'm full. I'm turning the page and starting a new chapter. Goodbye and thank you for everything." But until the arrival of that pivotal moment, I also had to live somehow, and moreover, I tried to enjoy and savor the life I had. In fact, my parents told me many times in the course of the last 2-3 years of our marriage with Ivan, "Olga, you are so different with each other. You don't have a common future. Let yourself go." And I always listened to them carefully, agreeing with their words deep inside me. However, made no attempts to have the situation changed. I didn't want to hurry. The family, the love, the people, the work, the habits, and the senses, all these things do matter, and there is no quick deal about them. If the relations of two people are in question, then both of them should be prepared for the next stage, even when the stage means to follow separate routes. And in the period from August 2013 to the beginning of 2016, I knew I and Ivan would not stay together for life. Our break of relations was already in the air, but it needed time to ripen. On repeated occasions during those years, I left our flat and stayed a night or two at my parents' home, every time coming back. Ivan even got used to such emotional outbursts on my part and stopped paying too much attention to them. However, I'm sure he realized as well, though unconsciously, that our mutual love would come to its end one beautiful day, and each of us would move on in different directions. When I can't make my final decision due to very subjective reasons, or might be my personal excuses, I prefer enjoying the present and taking the situation as is, instead of blaming myself for being weak and soft as butter. I clearly see the time will come, and I'll make the important step required, but when I'm ready for it, both physically and spiritually. Moreover, you begin to value the last moments, whether they are days, weeks, or months, much higher. They taste different. You relish those moments like the French savor ripe wine and aged cheese. And with this background, our mutual trip to France with Ivan in summer 2014 to the region of gourmet Alsace has become one of the best memories for my heart. As I already noticed a number of times, I've been in love with France. I think since my early childhood, when I heard my first lyric French song. I appreciate the country for its variety and abundance of everything, both substantial and intangible. These are the people who enjoy simple pleasures, who defend and respect their freedom, and are not in a hurry to live. An ordinary big cup of coffee with cream in the morning can become a perfect basis for the great day. A simple meal in the family or friend circle is one of the best joys that the French can have. And they strive to develop your talents and move towards your dreams, regardless of the multiple opinions of the public, which are often rather hostile in reality, lies at the heart of the French nation. Thus, after having visited the capital and its neighboring areas, Nice and the Côte d'Azur inherit in this artistic, poetic, saltwater city, I felt a desire to investigate the country further and go to the northern part of France, where the German and the French cultures had fancifully influenced each other, knocking together, falling over one another, and finally penetrating into each other and creating a new unique Alsace culture with German solidness and French airiness at once. In fact, the contradictions only seem to exclude one another. The final goal is to learn and accept the two poles and set up a perfect and reliable balance of powers. The harmony is the friendly union of the polarities, and when you discover the beauty and usefulness of each side, positive and negative, you find your own island of harmony and peace, since every emotion, energy, and feeling has its peculiar sense, governed by the idea of being yourself, following your dreams, accepting, enriching, and inspiring the others as the equal parts of the world, and finally creating the unison with your own individual nature. Ivan and I decided to stay in Strasbourg, the capital of city of Alsace. We rented a small studio in the hotel, very close to the center, for almost 2 weeks and for a very moderate price. As for me, I always tend to live independently, being my own boss. Surely, when you opt for an apartment, you have either to eat in the restaurants and cafes or cook in the occupied kitchenette to save money for other entertaining activities. For me, the idea of preparing romantic suppers with my spouse at home after the day full of adventures and curious events in an unknown country sounded highly attractive, as a wonderful chance to become closer to the delicious French cuisine, to enjoy the creative process of inventing new dishes, and to share your fresh impressions in the calm and relaxed ambience with the person who you love. And despite all our tensions, which I and Ivan had been already experiencing in our mutual daily life, we both savored those precious evenings in our small, cozy studio, trying various French specialities, degustating French wine, and exchanging our opinions and emotions about the whole previous day we had spent together by investigating the new places and the new people. The time in Alsace was like a parting kiss for both of us, which, like a first kiss, stays in memory for the rest of your life. It is curious how our relations in Alsace differed from those we had at home in Yekaterinburg. At least 3 or 4 times a week were usually dedicated to our local disputes and quarrels, with doors clapping, shouting, and following silent game. On the contrary, in Strasbourg, we treated one another very carefully, trying to foresee the wishes of the second person and being eager to engage in negotiations and concede to the other party if necessary. Neither I nor Ivan said out loudly the idea of having our last common journey. However, both of us already knew we had the last trip spent it together as a couple. It's very close to the case when you have a pretty big cake in front of you, perhaps a new one or your favorite, not nibbled yet, and you like it, though you have no idea about its taste and quality yet. The cake is abundant, but you can't actually judge how good it is at this stage. In the middle of the eating process, you surely appreciate the positive qualities and notice the negative attributes of the cake. Moreover, you already have snapped off a couple of pieces. You're not hungry anymore, and your interest about the cake's features is enough satisfied with your constantly changing preferences. But when it comes to the last piece left, it appears much more precious even than the whole untouched cake at the beginning, when your mouth was melting in the pleasure of pre-taste. Yes, by now you are familiar with the cake pretty well, up to tiny details and nuances. You're full in fact. You understand it's not your favorite one, and you're not so curious about it anymore, but this last piece will still taste in your mouth as the most delicious because it is going to its natural end with no carrying on, and you realize the fact. And while eating the last piece, you'll summarize and revive all your memories, sweet or sour senses, and various tons of each ingredient, enjoying slowly the cake for the last time, but in full. You eat contemplatively. You know you won't buy the same thing in the near future or at all. It was enough, and it's finally time to think about your good health. Despite all the factors, you put thoughtfully a full spoon into your mouth, chew and swallow the former voluptuous dessert, paying attention to every aspect and eating this last sweet experience delicately and gently. In a similar tender manner, I and Ivan treated each other during our travel to Alsace. We savored together every day, of course. We still had arguments between us. However, they didn't spite our light-hearted journey at all. One of the most memorable destinations was Europa Park in Germany, located close to the French border and representing a great entertainment place with multiple attraction for people of all ages and preferences, in which you can test your nerves, increase your adrenaline level in blood, and find out how loud you can actually scream on roller coasters of all kinds and types while riding loop after loop, becoming each time longer and steeper, with your car developing every second at higher speed, making you feel the end of the world is extremely close by now, but at the same time giving you a marvelous feeling of freedom and love for life. For those who prefer calm activities, one can find plenty of shows and performances dedicated to a certain land. The park is Europe in small. Together with Ivan, just within a day, on foot, we visited Spain, Italy, Russia, Germany, France, and other countries. I'm really fond of such theme recreation locations, since they bring you not only a great amount of new impressions, with a unique chance to throw a look at best places of interest of the world, to rattle your nerves in order to appreciate your beautiful life and get a good gulp of free creative energy. But what is the most valuable? These theme centers bring together all sorts of people from all corners of our big world who are eager as you are to share their experiences and good mood with every soul on their way, to smile at each other, to chat in languages one knows, and as in my case, I've always made use of exchanging a couple of words with strangers in French, German, and English, and finally to get closer and give a touch to another culture, where vision and perception and see with own eyes how different and at the same time common we all are. The atmosphere is extremely friendly and positive at places like German Europa Park, and the person's status, age, or wealth do not matter here anymore. You notice only the people around, people like you, having similar emotions, shaking with fear and spluttering with delight and enjoying life and themselves. No masks more. Everybody is himself and takes cheerfully the other person as is, with his unique nature, and such sweet, joyful memories you'll carry on through all your life. They're like snapshots, which are carefully stored in your heart and vividly float up in your invisible photo album every time you merely start thinking about them. Of course, in the course of the day we spent in Germany in Europa Park, Ivan was constantly joking at me, and I didn't leave a favor unanswered. However, our jibes didn't hurt us at all, since we both were too excited with everything happening around, and I paid attention exclusively to the humoristic funny parts of my husband's words, sometimes being pretty sharp. Like two frivolous kids, Ivan and I enjoyed the full scenes of freedom, belief in yourself, and immense joy, which were the reigns in the park. Even now, remembering many painful things that Ivan had brought me and I, in my turn, had made him, I can't help but smile, tenderly reviving that nice journey to France, to Alsace, and a wonderful day in the German theme park. Apart from the German resort, we visited together many other curious places, among them a tiny and toy-like town, Colmar, very picturesque and tidy as well. A mountainous castle covered totally with heavy fog, which provided even a stronger feeling of mystery and ghosts strolling nearby. And Strasbourg itself is a fascinating place where you immediately forget about all your troubles and concerns that they existed earlier. I felt like I lived on a different planet, with friendly aliens inhabiting the fairyland, and open-hearted tourists discovering its fabulous secrets. You won't hear Russian speech in the northern France on a daily basis. The majority of Russian tourists prefer more promoted places for their recreation period. And that's also good, since you are surrounded by another type of life and you get the perfect chance to alter something in yourself, or on the contrary, to show up your personal nature without any fear of being blamed or misunderstood by our traditional social circle. When you find yourself in entirely different circumstances, you surprisingly begin to behave in a new way, but in a very beautiful one. You simply build the invisible bridge towards you and turn your attention to your interior. It was a long time ago when I had tears in my eyes returning home. Usually I like to travel and I like to come back. But this time both Ivan and I knew. With our pleasant trip to Alsace, we had been closing the big and important part of our lives. In that chapter of more than 7 years, we had experienced a lot. Good and sad stories, nice and somber emotions. But those were the years of our mutual growing up and personal becoming, which we had undergone together. When I and Van returned to Yekaterinburg, we were still not ready to cease our relations, but the feeling of things to come got stronger and clearer with every coming week. Very often the people realize they have to make a decisive step into the new, to develop further, instead of sinking into the quicksand of stereotypes and who you must be, toxic for your nature. To live after your wishes and the call of your heart, instead of fulfilling demands and obligations imposed by others. To accomplish the most important and the only duty of life. To live happily with yourself and the world around. And this lightning of understanding couldn't be transformed into an immediate action, because there is no sense of burning bridges behind you, where all forever interconnected, but it's worth finishing one part of your life story calmly and thoughtfully at your own comfortable pace, including all activities, relations, emotions, and ideas which matter for you, to feel finally free, and then to get fully prepared to make a steady step into the prosperous future. A bit foggy and fearful yet, as with any unknown, but in consonance with your unique nature and the vast variety of the world. And now my lines for you. I leave the past behind my back. It took enough of time for me to understand I want to be alive and free, to live without masks, in accord with myself. This life is mine, not yours, not theirs. Here I'm the queen, I reign my thoughts and plans. The people frown, take me with a pinch of salt. You are the fool, you should behave as says the art. It's not an easy thing to turn the page of life, to say goodbye to all the stamps and patterns. We need a lot of power and endless thirst for life, to smile, to cry assertively, as only we would like. But that's the only way to live your life in full. Enjoy the happiness of every common day. Fulfill your dreams, spread beauty to the world. It sounds fearful at first, but it is worth being you. Dear friends, it is really worth being you, and I wish you to be every time yourself. Whatever happens, whatever people are around you, whatever situation you live through, be always yourself, because you are in fact unique. I would never ever meet a person like you. And that's the beauty of our world. So be yourself, enjoy your life, and see you very, very soon. Your Olga Paznikova. Cheers.